Ladies and gentlemen, we are a little over 24 hours away before the Buffalo Bills go to Houston and take on the Texans, the 5-5 Houston Texans. Do not let their record fool you. We are going up against one of the best defenses in the NFL, quite frankly, by a country mile. Not to mention, you have Davis Mills out there. I know that it's laughable, but you do need to remember, since CJ Stroud has been down, he has led this team to victories, right? Throwing for well over 250 yards, both full starts. So can Buffalo ultimately end up taking home the win? For the first time in Josh Allen's career in Houston, okay, he's never won in Houston before. The Buffalo Bills average 15 points per game, haven't won in Houston since 2006. So this game is not going to be a cakewalk. And quite frankly, at the beginning of the season, when I gave you my record prediction, I went game by game, and I had this Houston Texans game as a loss at that point. With CJ Stroud not playing, maybe things are going to change by the time this video is over with. But regardless, I am excited to unpack everything you need to know. This is my full preview and prediction. We are looking at advanced metrics, at statistics. We are going to formulate game plans on how the offense can take advantage of their perceived weaknesses on defense and vice versa. As you're coming in, I ask each and every single one of you to hit that thumbs up sign for me. It's the easiest way to show love over here on the show. And also roll call yourselves into the chat. Where are you tuning in from this morning? I'm nosy. I want to know how far Bills Mafia truly extends. Even the newbies in the building, even the lurkers, people that perhaps just watch this show and don't participate much in the live chat. I ask you just this one time and one time only. Let me know where you are tapping in from. You guys already know the deal. I need to give a couple of shout outs here to some of our proud partners, and that being our good friend William Mattar. Folks, if you were ever hurt in a car, you have to call William Mattar, #1 car accident attorney in the state of New York. I wouldn't wish a car accident on anybody, but that's the cruel reality of the world that we live in. So if that does happen to you, make sure you have Will in your corner. Phone number is on the screen. Memorize that. Burn it into your consciousness. Also need to give a giant shout out to Sleeper, the #1 player prop platform on the market today. Maybe you want to go out and put a saucy parlay on this Bills offense to shock the world and throw for over 300 yards against this Houston Texans secondary. Well, guess what? You can be rewarded for being right over on Sleeper. Do me a favor, hit that link in my description, folks. And they're giving you $20 just for signing up. So go on ahead and take advantage of all of that, guys. Sleeper is a proud partner. Also want to remind everybody real quick, I am giving away a signed Khalil Shakir jersey on Friday for my post-game reaction against the Houston Texans. Me and Tommy typically do a show together. I've been doing giveaways each and every single week. This is what I'm giving away. If, for example, you want to be a part of these giveaways, you must be a subscriber to this YouTube channel. No questions asked. And you must be in attendance on my Friday live reaction stream. I pick a winner based off of who is in the live chat, folks. So go on ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. And without further ado, let's go on ahead and get into business. Let me go on ahead and share my screen as we get into things here. All right, where's everyone tuning in from, man? Let's see as people start to file in. We have my boy Michael coming in. Baltimore, Maryland, Bath, New York. Thomas, what's going on? Hurley, New York. I'm from Pennsylvania. Awesome. Love to see it. Gainesville, Florida is in the building. Schuyler Country, New York, El Paso, Texas. Smash that like button. You are absolutely right, Carly. Sao Paulo, Brazil is in the building. Connecticut, El Paso, Texas, Utica, New York, London, UK. We got a permanent lurker from Brooklyn, New York. Michael Williams, I hope all is well with you. Struthers, Ohio. Bills Mafia. Olean, New York is in the building. Cuba, New York. Arizona. And Bob needs a morning slap. It's coming. It's coming, man. Trust me. Bob gets slapped about 2 or 3 times per stream. Toronto, Canada, Niagara Falls, Louisville, Kentucky, Montana is in the building. I love Montana. It's one of my favorite states in the country. Lackawanna, New York, West Point, New York, Connecticut is in the building. Syracuse, Kentucky. Man, I'll tell you what. Bills Mafia certainly is worldwide. Guys, hit that thumbs up sign as you're coming in. At any point, no matter how many people are watching, the like button must match the amount of viewers. All right. And bully people profusely in the chat if you notice that that is not the case. All right. So the big story here is the Houston Texans defense. And I got to tell you guys this, it is a very good unit. They have been a very good unit for a very long time. And secondary is the story with this team. As you can see, they are first in EPA. That's minus 62.99. That is a stellar, elite secondary. EPA per dropback, first in the NFL. DVOA, 8%. That's 23rd. We're going to get to that here in just a second. But bear in mind, with DVOA normally accounts for quality of opponent that you are playing. EPA is just on a per drive basis. Does not matter what kind of opponent you're going up against. So DVOA suggests that they may be a little overrated. But bear with me. Don't go riding with that just yet. We will come to that conclusion ourselves. Total interceptions forced, 10 already this year, tied for third. Yak allowed 842. This is a very good tackling football team. Very, very good. Not allowing a lot of yards after the catch so far in 2025. Explosive plays allowed, 25. That is 7th. Okay, so certainly limiting explosive plays here. Pass breakups, 52. That is 7th. They run a lot of tight coverage. We don't particularly have a lot of burners like out here. So I can see much of the same here. Don't run a lot of man coverage. 21st in the NFL. They're running zone coverage 65.7% of the time. And when you look at Josh Allen's passing efficiency, he's been struggling a tad against zone. What he wants to do is force this team into man coverage, if you will, in order for him to dominate. That's why he looked so good against Tampa Bay last week, because Tampa Bay had no choice but to go into man. Something to consider. And last but not least, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board, because what made Buffalo so dynamic last week against Tampa Bay was we were dialing up play action. Well, guess what, folks? This Houston Texans defense is the best play action defense in the NFL by a country mile. Very good at play action. They don't bite. They're super disciplined. They're a great tackling team, sticky coverage. Very well coached. So we certainly have our hands full when it comes into this secondary. Now, you probably heard me say there could be a deeper story into this secondary, because you notice that the DVOA, they're ranked at about 23rd when looking at opponents by itself. When you look at the offenses and where they ranked all season long, this is the culmination of opponents that they have seen. The Rams, by and large, the best offense that they have played all year. They are currently 4th. But remember, that was week 1. So did we really get to see what a mid-season type LA Rams could do against this defense? Not particularly. Moving on, they played the Buccaneers, who are 18th in offensive passing EPA. The Jaguars, who are 24th. And keep in mind, the Jaguars, even after they beat them the first time, scored about, I think 38 points last time and 29 the matchup before. But they are still 24th in offensive EPA. They have played the Titans, who are the 31st passing team in the league. The Ravens, who are currently marked 21st. This was against a backup quarterback. We will see. The Seahawks were 7th, and the Seahawks beat them. Do keep in mind. 49ers were 10th in the NFL for offensive EPA, and the Broncos are 13th. And they are welcoming a Buffalo Bills offense that is currently 3rd in passing EPA in the league at plus 2.15. So you could technically suggest that this Texans defense is not as good as EPA demonstrates, but I'm not hopping on that bandwagon. I think that this secondary is going to be causing problems for this team. And we're going to have to be really meticulous on how we attack this squad. Because again, like we have not beaten this team in Houston since 2006. And the Buffalo Bills are averaging 15 points a game. And Josh Allen is 0-3 in this stadium right now. So we're going to have to really go back to the drawing board and put together the perfect game plan. Now, what's even more intriguing, everybody on earth has been obsessed with the fact that CJ Stroud is unable to play. But I would argue that a much more significant missing piece is safety Jalen Petrie. This guy led the team in takeaways, 3 interceptions. He is a safety that typically goes side by side with Kalen Bullock. He's in his second year, I want to say, right now. But without Jalen Petrie, he has been out as long as CJ Stroud, again, dealing with a concussion. You see these numbers completely plummet. So when Jalen Petrie is not on the field, and granted, this is a limited sample size, perhaps their opponents weren't as scary as they were in the past, but this Houston Texans team has dropped to 11th in the league via EPA, 13th in EPA per dropback, and DVOA basically improved a little bit to 13th when it comes into this secondary. So it's pretty clear that they're going to be missing Jalen Petrie. They are nowhere near as effective when their starting safety is not out on the field. And guess what? He will not be. Something to consider, something to look at it from that perspective. All right. Moving on to what this run defense is going to look like. Damn. And we could use a James Cook type game. Don't you agree? I think so. But when it comes into the Houston Texans run defense, okay, I'd say about middle of the road for the most part. Yards allowed are pretty solid, but again, I don't really see a lot of quality opponents of running backs that they have played this year. 12th in EPA. You have 11th in EPA per attempts, 21st in DVOA, so minus 7.8%. Yards allowed, 871. Yards per carry, 3.9 yards. That is 4th. Missed tackles, 18th. They are missing quite a few tackles when it comes in to stopping the run. So certainly think about that. Explosive runs allowed, only have allowed 23. So for the most part, they're not allowing like many 30, 40 yards right to the damn house type run defense. Stack box per attempt, 3.7. So not really as much as what we have seen in the past, and a stuff rate of 20.4% when it comes into this run defense. We're going to get into how I think we get James Cook like operating. Something to really consider here. Last but not least, we have the Texans pass rush. Now, what I can tell you is this. Oh, excuse me. Now, what I can tell you is this. They've been struggling. They have been struggling getting to the quarterback. This is not the strength of their defense as it was last year. Pass rush and pressure was one of their strengths last year in 2024. They've seen a bit of a fall off here. Now, likely has to do with a few injuries. Both Will Johnson and Danico Autry were limited, I believe, yesterday. I think that they're questionable going into the Buffalo Bills game tomorrow night. I think they'll both play, but will they be nearly as effective? Even with them both out there, this team has only generated 106 pressures. That is 20th in the NFL. 18th pressure percentage, 29.8%. Only 25 sacks, 15th in the league. Sack rate is at 11th. Total blitzes, 92. So this team is not blitzing too often, just utilizing organic pressure, and blitz rate only at 25.8%. So when you go from a team like the Atlanta Falcons or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who like dialing up blitz packages, you're not seeing this from their defense. A lot of their sacks are coverage sacks because their perimeter corners, such as Kamari Lassiter, such as Derek Stingley, right? They have incredible coverage out there. Linebackers certainly have their chops in that situation as well. This is where we have to go with it. All right. Now, one thing I did kind of want to point out too is let's think about who needs to be targeted at any given moment. I always like looking at what a secondary or how a secondary ultimately ends up playing against the specific position. Now, if you remember on my previous previews, when we went up against some other quality defenses, right? Like we saw the Patriots, for example. While they were very good with wide receiver 1s, 2s, and 3s, they struggled against tight ends and running backs. Or when I was talking about the Buccaneers, their weakness was slot receiver. Not the case for the Houston Texans. Now, these numbers could change, of course, now that they're missing out on their safety, Jalen Petrie, but they are literally top 10 in stopping each and every single position group. They are 7th in the league for guarding wide receiver 1s, 10th in wide receiver 2s, 8th in guarding wide receiver 3s or slot wide receivers, 4th in guarding tight ends, and 3rd in guarding running backs in the pass game. So when I say that this is a very well-rounded, very talented type secondary, this is what you are going to see. Just something I figured that I would point out for us here. Now, let's talk about what we need to do. Like, how are we going to exploit this team? I'll tell you what. We need to be able to establish the run against this squad. And we need to do it strategically because a lot of what Houston Texans defense or run defense struggles against is not particularly something that I would categorize as James Cook's strength, right? When you look at what I need Buffalo to do or what I think would work, doesn't ultimately correlate with what James Cook or any of the running backs we have on this team particularly do well on an advanced metric side of things. However, if Buffalo wants to get the run game going, you need to hammer 11 and 21 man personnel. By far, both of those personnel packages are allowing the most yards per carry and positive EPA for opposing offenses. 11 personnel, 5.17 yards per carry. 21 personnel, 4.76. The problem is that you could pin yourself into a corner, and that could almost be a tell that Buffalo is running the football, because while 11-man personnel is the most effective against the Houston Texans in the run, it is the least effective against the Houston Texans in the pass. So Joe Brady's going to have to be in his bag. He certainly is going to have to. And then 21 personnel equally is effective when it comes down into running and passing. What I need from this team as far as stylistic runs here, we need a lot of utilize pull lead plays. Pull lead plays is typically gap scheme. Guard ends up moving from his initial position, goes downfield, and is responsible for a specific defender, right? Several times, I'm sure you've seen David Edwards bail out of his own responsibility, crawl behind the center, go downfield, and find that. A power scheme, if you will. That is hands down the most effective against the Houston Texans. The problem is that James Cook doesn't really have a lot of power run attempts this year. So we're going to be asking him to do something that he is not particularly comfortable with. However, if we were to make it work, the EPA allowed is well into the positives, and yards per carry is sitting at about 5. Have to utilize man and gap scheme in case you guys are interested in between the difference between gap runs and zone runs. Zone runs, offensive linemen are responsible for whatever defender comes in their area. Gap is an offensive lineman is responsible for a particular defender. Man gap schemes is the most effective rushing mentality when you're going up against the Houston Texans. Zone, not so much, especially inside zone. Only 29.5% success rate on inside zone runs. It's just not it, right? So what I would like to see from this team is we need to dial up gap. We need to get James Cook into outside zone situations, which is okay because while I'm not particularly having much faith in him when it comes into the power run scheme, he is wonderful in outside zone, and he prefers running outside of the tackles. So I think that we can get the game going here. Don't get cute. and try to run a couple of inside zone attempts on first and second down and pin yourself down to 3rd and 10. Because, guys, if we get into 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, I am not betting that Buffalo is going to have a good day on third down offense. I am not. We need to leverage as many of these early down chances that we have. Because 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, like, we're screwed. Have to get these yards. You often hear me say, hey, you know what? With Josh Allen, man, he needs to go on ahead and he needs to take the stuff underneath. He needs to take the stuff underneath. He needs to. Like, guys, I ultimately ended up watching a little bit of tape from the Seattle Seahawks game versus Houston Texans. And some of the only times that Sam Darnold was able to win on intermediate routes and on deep routes was as if the DB tripped. Very few times. Very, very few times. I'm not willing to roll the dice on waiting for one of the DBs to do something unathletic that gets a guy open. We're going to need to take the stuff underneath. We need the guys to have space. And that's another reason when it comes into the pass game of my second key for the game. You need to target your zone beaters. You need to put trust into Khalil Shakir. I need you to elevate Gabe Davis once again, because those two, by and large, are the guys that I trust the most to find space. This Houston Texans team doesn't run a lot of man coverage, right? Like, they are just responsible for their areas. There are open areas of the field. I need Josh to take what the defense gives him, and I need the wide receivers to be in the right place at the right time. Make sure you deploy bunch formations to create natural pick plays as well. Create as much traffic as humanly possible underneath, in which that confuses this. Target shavers on clear outs, go routes. Make Elijah Moore run your clear outs. Do whatever you can to create space for your guys. Joe Brady needs to be in his bag. Followed by that, like with Keon Coleman, look, he's probably going to be active. Okay, he was benched last week, and how Buffalo has been utilizing him, at least at the beginning of the season, is not the game plan. What I would be interested in seeing Keon Coleman run, though, and so are some crossers. I would love for Keon Coleman to run some crossers on the intermediate side of things, especially once we end up seeing exactly what this Houston Texans team likes to run. Run some crossers, man. Get Keon in on that overall route responsibility. Shavers on the goes. Gabe Davis and Khalil Shakir finding space underneath. That's what the route trees would look like for me. Say that I was Joe Brady going into this game. And then Josh Palmer in posts as well. That's what I'm doing. And then last but not least, I feel like I kind of already teased this, is have to force Houston into 3rd and manageable. If, for example, Buffalo is in 3rd and 10 or any 3rd and long situations, I'm not really trusting our guys here. Have to make the most of early downs on this team. And the secondary is just too good. And then last but not least, when you get into the red zone, score, because damn, this team struggles in the red zone. Lockdown everywhere else on the field, but once you get inside your own 20, things just tend to fall apart, man. Positive EPA per play and a 55.93% success rate allowed from this squad. So, 3 keys of the game offensively against this Houston Texans defense. Number 1, establish the run, but strategically. Utilize a lot of gap schemes for James Cook, outside zone, some pull plays if necessary. As far as passing is concerned, make sure you take these things underneath. If you must target go balls, take advantage of the backup safety. I think it's Jalen Moore. He was a recent Chief, I want to say, that's filling in for Jalen Petrie at this point. If you're going go routes, if you're stretching the field vertically, have to get him in some unpleasant situations. Pick on that guy. We know what the secondary looks like without this safety. And then number 3, right? No turnovers. No turnovers, and take advantage of early downs. That's what we're going to do. Guys, look, I am telling you this right now. I would be shocked if Buffalo scores more than 20 points. I would be shocked if Buffalo scores more than 20 points. But quite frankly, I think that's all you need to win is 20. So based off of everything, and then we'll end up switching over to we'll switch over to the Bills' offensive attack. Well, excuse me. So the Bills' defensive attack right against the Houston Texans' offense. But I kind of also wanted to show my work a little bit because, say, for example, like you're just getting to know me, right? And like you're like, oh, like I wonder how he's pulling all of this out of his ass. I do a lot of very deep research into each and every single matchup with advanced metrics based off of opponent. And then what I did for this game, which is a bit different just because we're talking about a very good defense, I had to pull up a game in which that we witnessed as the most effective offense against our upcoming opponent. And that was the Seattle Seahawks versus the Houston Texans. And what made it work for the Seattle Seahawks, why they were able to score 29 points against this team, was they used a lot of motion and misdirection. Have to do that. Right now where Buffalo stands, we're top 10 in motion anyway. So I'm sure I'm just preaching to the choir at this point. Success against man coverage concepts. They forced them into man coverage because Sam Darnold was finding everything underneath, taking advantage of these sort of the early down opportunities. And last but not least, balanced personnel usage to create matchup advantages, right? Again, like I told you, and this is where it was at, right? You ended up seeing 21 personnel, which is very, very good in passing against them. Utilize that. As far as their ground game attack, what did I already tell you, right? Very, very good team right here. Very, very good team. But their biggest weaknesses were the power run concept. Some outside zone was also a weakness. All of this is negative EPA, which means they're good at it. But like we need to stress what they're at least average at. And that's what it is. They are average against power and outside zone and gap. So that's what we need to do here. As far as passing game versus Houston coverage, what worked for the Seattle Seahawks? For them, they dominated cover 1 and they dominated cover 6. That's basically what it was. So that is where we are at for the Buffalo Bills offensive game plan against this Houston Texans defense. Let's go ahead and get to the chat real fast for a brief Q&A before we end up moving on into Davis Mills. How the hell are we going to take care of our good friend Davis Mills? All right, what's the chat all about today, baby? Let's talk about this chat real fast. All right, let's see. Question: is there a way that you can get Shaq back out there sooner? First off, thank you so much for formatting that. Shaq, from what I understand, was a full participant yesterday, and I believe he's going to be another full participant today. Barring a setback in practice, like re-aggravating an injury, I have a feeling he's probably going to be good and he's going to be good to go. I would love for him to be out there because he, in my opinion, is a hell of a lot better against the run and is pretty solid in coverage. Because make no mistake, like Bernard's hurt. Like he's been playing through some sort of ankle injury. He's uncomfortable out there. He's still decent in coverage, but he has regressed significantly against the run. Shaq's got to be the guy, and I'm really hoping that he should be okay. Dan, how do we stop the run? Ooh, man. Don't worry about that, my friend. Don't worry about that. I have some answers for you. What about the Texans running backs? Are they good? Man, dude, we're really diving in right now to this Davis Mills-led Houston Texans offense. Well, don't worry, folks. We're going to be getting into it. It looks like New England has retaken your division. Yeah, is what it is. Puka got up numbers receiving against the Texans. Shakir may be able to do it all as well. We will see. All right, let's go on ahead and lock in to this offense, right? And the best way to start off with the offense is understanding who is leading the charge, man. Shout out to our good friend, Davis Mills. All right, now look, the Houston Texans like Davis Mills. They paid him to be a QB2. And I got to give the guy credit, right? He has helped his team win 2 back-to-back games while CJ Stroud was out with a concussion. He's doing his job, man, right? Like he's your typical or your prototypical type quarterback. But based off of his 2 games, and all of these numbers that I've pulled up are just based off of week 10 and week 11, where Davis Mills was the starter. Fun fact, right? But within these past 2 weeks, as far as EPA, with Davis Mills is 27th in the league, and that's compared to 38 quarterbacks. Okay, not just 32. Since he is a backup, we're comparing it to 38. EPA per dropback, 29th in the NFL. His DVOA is 18th. Smack dab 0, meaning that he's playing average. Average once you consider quality of competition, once you consider types of defenses on a per drive basis. Average, 0%. Big thing for Davis Mills. Big thing. First read. He goes to his first read 64.2% of the time. First in the NFL. First in the NFL for going to your first read. He does not go through his progressions. He just needs to dial in with his brand new offensive coordinator. 9 times out of 10, he's going to his first read, or I suppose 6 times out of 10, since it's 60%. And numbers are fun. His deep throw rate is only 10.8%. That is 23rd. His average depth of target is at about 9 yards. He loves the intermediate side of things. He loves Nico Collins as well. Who wouldn't, right? Because he's typically your first read. When kept clean, 69.3% of the time he completes his passes. Under pressure, he is completing 34.4% of his passes. And when blitzed, 60.4% of his passes. So the Buffalo Bills, right? Like, their pass rush has been less than ideal for the past couple of weeks. That largely has to do with injuries. We've been trying to simulate pressures by dialing up some blitz packages, by utilizing Dorian Williams in a particular way. So far, he hasn't been experiencing a lot. But let's take a look at the offense as a whole, and let's formulate a game plan for this Buffalo Bills team. Okay, so the Houston Texans passing offense, I have mixed these numbers based off of just Davis Mills, and I've also incorporated more telling things of where this squad is as far as a collective unit from 2025, and depending on the specific metric. But they're 12th in EPA. They're 12th in EPA per dropback. DVOA is at 13th, and this is Davis Mills led once again. 21st in the NFL for yak. Okay, so they are not creating a lot of yards after the catch. Like, with Nico Collins, he's a dog. He's good. He's not a big yak wide receiver, right? And so I wouldn't call him a possession receiver, but it's not a big part of their offense. Yak per attempt, only 1.7 yards. So reading these numbers, a big key that comes to mind, make your tackles, all right? Make your damn tackles. Explosive play rate, 8.9% in the passing game. That is 14th in the league. Not really seeing quite a bit of that. Play action, 12th in the NFL. So they utilize play action more than the average team, I would suppose, but nowhere near the top of the league. And motion percentage, do not run a lot of motion at all. So there's not going to be a lot of misdirection created. They're just relying on their guys. I don't hate them for that. What about the biggest question here? Because I'll tell you what, right before we transitioned into this, we were wondering about the Houston Texans run game, man. Well, that run game is led by Woody Marks and Nick Chubb. So we remember Nick Chubb, right? Well, let's take a look where they're ranked here. Right now, they are 27th in the league EPA. They are 29th in the league EPA per attempt. And they are only generating 4.2 yards per carry. That is 22nd. Yards before contact, only 2.1 yards. That is 21st. Yards after contact rate, 2.1 yards as well, only 19th. Avoided tackle rate, 19.7%. So not generating in crazy amount of missed tackles. An explosive run rate, 10%, 25th in the NFL. So, on paper, not a good rushing attack. Not a good rushing attack whatsoever. But then again, we're going up against a Bills run defense, which is probably the worst in the league by a country mile. Something to think about. And last but not least, we have the Texans offensive line. They got a lot of crap this offseason for potentially being one of the worst units in the NFL. While they are not good, okay, I would not categorize this team as a good rushing or a good pass blocking type offensive line, but they are a hell of a lot better than what we're willing to give them credit for. They have gotten significantly better. All right. So the pressure rate allowed is only 9th. This could have to do with the fact that QBs are getting rid of the football quite fast. Like with Davis Mills, I think is top 5 in the NFL for time to throw. Like guy is like really like, he's a first read guy, right? So like he's going to get the ball out quick. And then total sacks allowed 25, right? So it's like 18th in the NFL. It's not awful by any stretch of the imagination. But as far as pass protection and as far as run blocking, you see the Houston Texans are in the bottom left quadrant for both. Meaning that when you compare their PFF grade and when you compare their win rate according to ESPN, not a very good offensive line in pass protection and in run blocking, as you can see. Not a good PFF grade in run blocking and definitely not a good win rate in run blocking whatsoever. Hence why this rushing attack has not really been able to open up. For the most part, this team is pretty one-dimensional. So what do the Bills do about this, man? What do we do about it? Let me tell you what I got to do. My biggest takeaway here, and we're starting with the pass game, because Nico Collins have some good young wide receivers here as well, something to consider, both of which are out of Iowa State, and Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. However, I need the Buffalo Bills to run man coverage the vast majority of the time, okay? When you end up looking at Davis Mills' production, and I pulled these numbers based off of his career starts, he's completing 65.6% of his passes against zone with a positive EPA. And look at the drop-off. Look at the legendary regression when Mills is against man coverage. 49.5% of the time he's completing his passes and a negative EPA. No questions asked. He throws his first read. He throws to his first read more than any other quarterback in the league right now. You have to leverage man coverage, because I don't think this team is really going to be running the football quite often. I really, really don't. Moving on, force deep attempts for Davis Mills. Force it, baby. Force some deep attempts. How you do that is you need to play aggressive underneath coverage from the beginning. And I would also argue sparingly, stack the boxes. I'm talking 8-man boxes at the beginning of the game, because you know Houston is going to at least try to run the football against Buffalo based off of our metrics. Once that is done, need to take care of that underneath stuff, because while technically Davis Mills has a positive EPA on deep throws, his interception percentage skyrockets like most quarterbacks. However, Buffalo needs to force him into these deep attempts, have to leverage cover 2 man, cover 4, and cover 1. Those are the 3 coverages in which that Davis Mills struggles the most with, all negative EPA. Avoid cover 3 zone, cover 2 zone, cover 6 zone, and cover 0. Completely avoid those. He's very good against them EPA-wise, completion percentage-wise. His offensive coordinator has answers for him in case he ever sees that. My favorite coverages I got to see is cover 2 man, cover 4, and cover 1. That's what I would like Bobby Babich, Sean McDermott, whoever the hell is calling this damn offense at this point, to dial up for this team. That's number 2. Number 3, I want pressure, baby. Number 3, I want pressure. It's going to be tough, because like I said, this team has been struggling in the pressure department. We have an edge rusher that is playing with one hand. We have Ed Oliver out. We have a couple of rookies on the interior that are playing well, but how much do we realistically expect from a rookie? We lost out on Michael Hoyt. So we're going to have to be strategic. Send Shaq Thompson every now and again. Utilize base coverages with Dorian Williams, Shaq Thompson, and the whole 9. He gets rid of the football quick. If we can possibly create some sort of pressure, we know what he is like as a quarterback. And again, as I've showed you guys, It's not like that the Houston Texans have a good win rate in pass protection. So while we have injuries, at least analytically speaking, we should be able to generate at least a couple of pressures, hopefully enough to cause a couple of turnovers for this team. We need to be able to lock in here. We absolutely need to be able to lock in. So when it comes into my final score prediction, good God, man. Good God. It's going to be a low-scoring game, but so I'll keep it to right around where Buffalo normally scores with Houston. Give me Buffalo 19 and the Houston Texans 13. Yeah, I think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game. It's just how it is, man. It's just how it is. But as long as we're 8-3, that's all that matters to me. Wow, dude, holy hell, who am I, Dr. Seuss here? Anyway, guys, let's go on ahead and dip into a quick question and answer, or a question and statement segment. As always, I ask you to sort of utilize the right criteria by labeling each and every single submission with either a Q or an S, so I can tell between statements toward me or internal conversations within the chat. Brian Dean's in the building saying, if Allen takes what the defense gives him, 4 to 7 yard passes, the Bills will score 27 to 30 points. When we do that, the Bills score touchdowns and field goals. Bills need to limit to 0 3-and-outs, keep our D off of the field as long as possible. When D does their job, offense needs to reward them by giving them time to regroup and keep giving opposing teams good field position. For sure. Look, so you and I have the exact same mentality. Can't put ourselves into 3rd and long situations. Please, for the love of God, no penalties, like no brain rot, false starts, or holdings. Like, just play clean and complimentary football. Don't shoot yourself in the foot, and don't put yourself in 3rd and long situations, man. Like, don't at all. That's the key for us to be able to move against this team. And how you do that is take everything underneath. 28-17 Buffalo. I think we score on short fields and turnovers. I like that. Just got to be smart and just win. I like that. I like that. Be smart. Spidey is coming in saying, what is the reason our run defense is so bad? Is it players and the play calling or something else? Is there any hope for it to get better this season? So I think a lot of it is personnel, right? And so I think a lot of it is that we don't have what our defensive line should have been from a roster perspective. And so a lot of injuries, man. We have guys playing through injuries right now. We saw how slow Bernard looks in run defense. Shaq Thompson has been out. Same thing with Ed. We had Daquan Jones out for a couple of games. So it all starts with like front seven stuff, right? So we're just going to have to hope for the best. Now, I'm very interested to see how this run defense attacks, because Houston is going to try and run the football. Like, why wouldn't you? Especially with how weak Buffalo is, although that Houston's pretty weak at running the ball in general. I'm kind of like, do we stack the box, or do we transition into like more of a coverage focused attack and trust our guys to limit a below average rushing like offense in general? Because while we have been getting dominated quite a bit, like by some of these rushing attacks, a lot of these guys are like top 10 in EPA. And so we haven't particularly been gashed by terrible like rushing offenses. So I wonder what McDermott does. I really wonder what he does. Dan, is Kincaid supposed to be back, and do you think we keep Coleman benched? No, with Dalton Kincaid will not be. I think that we'll see him again next Sunday. And then as far as Keon Coleman, I think that he's going to play, especially because Curtis Samuel is going to be out and Mecole Hardman is going to be out. So I think we'll have no choice but to put him up. What type of offense is zone more beneficial against than man coverage? What type of offense is zone more beneficial against in the man coverage? it's more so for me what type of quarterback it is. It's more so for me like what type of quarterback it is, right? Zone, in my opinion, is typically better against like rookies or like younger QBs or guys that struggle with turnover issues because it's more difficult to read, right? Man coverage is more so where you're going up against like personnel and personnel. And for the most part, you would run man coverage for a quarterback that's like a bit more cerebral. But then you end up getting into QBs that are just so incredible versus both that you need to do whatever you can to disguise, like make it look like man, but actually you're running zone. And like make it look like zone, but like you're running man. So it's more so quarterback centric than it is with type of offense, right? That's me. Stop worrying, y'all. We got this season. It is not over yet. I absolutely love it. Should Buffalo move Coleman to the slot if he's not much improved, then make things work to move on? Yeah, for sure. Look, I would love to see that. Say, for example, you keep on giving Shavers the reps that he has clearly earned, and you move Keon Coleman over to a couple of big slot opportunities when Khalil Shakir is not out on the field. And Gabe Davis out on the field at the exact same time. Two big body guys. I love it. Bills offensive line must step up. If they do that, Bills win versus Texans 28-14. Josh plays Superman and Cook has 100-plus yard game. Also, I believe Gabe Davis and Josh Palmer will have a great game as well. Alex, what up? What up? I can't stress it enough. Take what the defense gives you. Look what happened against the Bucks. 44 ball, baby. Utilize the running backs in the passing game if need to. It's going to be tough because Houston's secondary is very good at stopping running backs in the pass game. I'm fine with working on whatever you can work on. Like, say that you want to try it. Like, look, while Houston's play action defense is very good, I still want us to try, right? While they're very good at guarding running backs in the passing game, I would still like us to try. I just don't want us to make that a big part of our offensive attack plan, trying to force something that's clearly not working. We need to be cerebral. We need to not put ourselves in a position where we're unable to unadjust or not adjust. Statement. And the Texans have scored the most points from field goals this season, 26 field goals. Our boys need to block 1 or 2 field goal attempts. And then hopefully we don't get a BS holding call at the end of the day. Real Bill P. Dan, what's up, man? How you doing? Statement. I would love to see Coleman in the slot, especially with Curtis Samuel out. I like that. Looking for Gabe Davis to do even better than he did last week. That's if he's elevated. I hope he is. The Bills injury report came out. Did it? Let's see. Let's take a look. And so I know that we had it yesterday. And so I want to see if we have the final one. We do. Look at that, folks. Look at that. The Bills injury report. Final injury report, folks. To no surprise to anybody, we have Mecole Hardman is out. We have Curtis Samuel is out. Dalton Kincaid is out. No surprise to anyone here. And then we have our practice squad defensive tackle, Fedarian Mathis, is questionable. We'll see if he goes out there, man. Hey, Dan, Keon is clearly struggling at wide receiver, and do we try him at running back? Could be a huge goal. Thoughts? No, I don't think that would be a case for it. It's tough to like have someone change their position because while you can go pro in wide receiver, it's hard for you to also be pro in another position, right? No, I don't think that would be the case. Statement, utilize him on punt return and kick return to get him involved. I wouldn't start him as wide receiver. He's a gadget player at most, not a true wide receiver. And Terrell looks solid Sunday, but Taron Johnson has been killing us lately. Buffalo should consider starting Cam Lewis at slot corner. You should. Yo, let me get that Dolphins jersey since Miami per TikTok. I already gave it to someone, man. Already gave it to somebody. I announced the winner. And so I announced the winner on the immediate TikTok after the game. I still have kids being like, "Oh, where's my Miami jersey?" I'm like, "Listen, dude, like just like utilize your attention spans and watch the full video. You'll see me announce the winners." Okay. Hey, Dan, little off topic. Does UB win tonight and clinch a bowl spot? I'll be completely honest with you, man. I haven't been following UB at all this year, but yes, I think they do. All right. Shakir should play tomorrow, but he didn't practice this week, but understandably so. Should play tomorrow. He didn't practice this week. He's still dealing with some things. And plus, he just had a baby. So that's why he did not participate. So he did just have a baby. Dan, can we finally start giving Keon and Kyer Elam treatment? I mean, it feels like we already have, right? And do you think Cook can run against this defense, or do we involve him in the pass game more? I do think that he can run against this defense, but we have to be utilizing gap schemes, and we have to get him an outside zone. So we have to be strategic on how we use him and put him in positions to succeed. We're not going to be able to succeed with him running inside zone reps in zone schemes. It's just not what Houston allows. So the offensive line is going to need to be in their bag. Can Brady scheme a game plan for Palmer, Moore, and Shavers downfield? It's probably going to be an underneath type passing game. Say that he does scheme things downfield. It's going to be targeting the backup safety in place of Jalen Petrie. But I think we're going to be seeing a lot of dink and dunk Buffalo Bills offense, if you were going to ask me. Keon can play quarterback. My God. Shakir with the dad power. Congrats to Shakir. Absolutely. On the Coleman situation, my gut and common sense tells me it was no coincidence that Keon didn't play and Bill's passing game was so great versus the Bucs. And to me, McDermott is saying shape up or ship out. Absolutely. Hey, Dan, given the Texans' aggressiveness in defense, I see us are running a lot of screens. You can run screens against the Houston Texans. How does it look? Man? The screen game, I know y'all hate it, but here we are. How bad was Mecole Hardman's injury? What kind of injury? He has a calf injury. And so I would assume 2 to 3 weeks. Bills are an unfortunate wild card round exit. I disagree. It's AFC Championship. Yes, sir, Mike. How we looking, Dan? Man, I'll tell you what. So I have this team winning 19-13. That's my game. That is my game. And so the Keon hate pretty out of control. He still has the most yards for a wide receiver in a game this year. Last time Brady opened up the office, game 1, he dominated. So what I look for in evaluating talent is consistency. So 1 or 2 games of quality production from a player is not enough for me to say, oh yeah, like we just haven't been utilizing him correctly. I do think that he has some physical limitations. And while I do think that he could be utilized in a different way, I'm not particularly sold on him, right? Is there any word on Fox playing yet? No, we will not know that until tomorrow. You think Gabe Davis will be elevated again? Don't fix what's not broken, right? Exactly. We break 30 tomorrow. I have 19 for us. We'll see, though. Listen, I will be thrilled if we could score 30 on a Houston Texans defense. This is what I mean when you have guys like Kamari Lassiter, who is going to be guarding Keon. He's not getting open. We all know he's not wide receiver number 1 ready, but he has no choice but to take the role. It's not fair. You can still very much like have him suited up for the game and just utilize him in situations. So the Houston Texans don't run a lot of man coverage. So we're not needing our wide receivers to create separation here. We just need wide receivers to create space. So we're seeing this Texans team run 70% zone. So you're not going to see like wide receivers locking up guys. It's more of a zone situation. So we'll see what Keon can do, and we'll see how much Keon is utilized. How is Houston against tight ends? Could we see Hawes more in the game? Possibly. They are great against tight ends. As far as the Houston Texans, boys, like, look, the ladies as well. Look at this. So they are top 10 at guarding each and every single position. It's not the case, right? And that's rare. And that's very rare when you see a team that's top 10 in guarding each and every single position out on the field. Expect the team to take advantage of those 3 games. They can elevate Gabe till needing to sign. Exactly. And do you think they will trade Keon, and what would the trade value be? Maybe in the offseason. We're going to have to see. We need the coaches to scheme the wide receivers open. Yep. Take the underneath stuff. And if they're schemed open, we need Josh and actually pass them the football too, right? That's where I'm at. We have Alex saying, who helps the roster more, Sammy Watkins, Takeo Spikes, or Brian Dable? Definitely Takeo Spikes. 110%. Say, for example, that he was in his bag. He was back into being his thing, you know. But all right, folks. That's going to have to do it for another edition of the Down Mafia Report. I appreciate each and every single one of you for making it a part of your day to chill with me and unpack each and every single, storyline surrounding our favorite team, previews and predictions. As you know, I'm live Monday through Friday at 10:15 a.m. EST. I want to remind everybody that I am giving away this signed Khalil Shakir jersey. Okay, one of you could be a lucky winner. You must be a subscriber to the YouTube channel in order to be eligible, and you must be present on Friday for my live game recap with Tommy on Friday morning. I will be selecting somebody from the chat. So make sure, guys, that you're subscribed and you turn on bell notifications. Smash that like button. I sincerely appreciate that, and we'll see you soon. Peace.